Martinez. And first order of business is approval of minutes. This is the minutes from October 26th meeting. We only have 1 minute, right? Move to approve. Second? Second. Any further questions? Subject to written correction? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Going back to the agenda. Do we have any public comments? No. Mr. Miguel Bordallo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were a few additions to the GM report. If the board is interested in hearing about that, we can just have the AGM go through the additions.
Sure.
Okay. Tab pages. Here.
Thanks, Miguel. The additions to the report were the workforce availability report. At this time, we've got 95% of the workforce is reporting as healthy. 2% sick, that's not COVID related. We had a couple individuals that are quarantined. At the time of the report, we had 7 employees that were active COVID cases that were in quarantine, which is about 2% of the workforce. Vaccination status as of November 17th, we had approximately 89.5% fully vaccinated with 1.65% or 6 people with 1 shot remaining. 32 employees at this time are unvaccinated. The other updates were the accounts receivable graphs that are on a monthly basis. Again, we continue to see improvement on both the residential and the commercial accounts that do not have existing payment plans. You can find them on page 29.
Okay.
The amounts owed for those groups are tracking below pre-COVID levels, although the number of accounts are actually up on the residential side. So, but the amounts owed are less. Same trend with the commercial. We're seeing higher numbers that are past 60 days due, but the amount due is lower than pre-COVID levels.
Okay. Any questions?
So more customers are delinquent, but they owe us less money?
Correct. Beyond 60.
Beyond 60.
Okay.
And on page 59 of board books, I have a slide that shows a picture of our debt service going forward. So if you take a look at the slide, you can see that our underwriters have worked with us to try to have a levelized
Debt service.
level of debt service. So it goes from 33 million in 2020 to a high of about 45.6 million in 2044, and will be paid off if we don't incur additional debt by 2050.
Keep in mind, this is for existing debt service,
Right.
correct? So based on our current
bonds.
CIP, this is based on our current bonds, but based on our current CIP and financial plan that's before the PUC, if we implement the tax-exempt commercial paper to support the CIP, then in 2025, we will have an additional bond that will not have any capitalized interest, and we will have debt service payments coming due in 2025 for that.
In addition to this.
In addition to this. And so you'll see another layer of debt service on top of that, on top of what's shown here.
Well, the one thing I see is that debt service is jumping in 2022 this year, and it jumps again in 2023, then this kind of level. So we get up to close to $40 million. Tully, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Right now we're at about 33 or 30.
We're at 33.5 25, and we'll be
Okay.
jumping up to 39 in FY '23.
Okay, now, the current rates that we have do not support this debt service, right? Getting to 30, 39,
No, don't the current rates pay your debt service?
So we were still requesting additional rate increases in order
to meet our
meet
debt
our debt
service.
service obligations and our coverage ratios and cover all of the anticipated O&M expenses
Okay.
through 2023. So we will need,
No, it's just
based
that-
on our
Yeah, no matter
position.
what.
And this
you-
is also, our request was also envisioning that we would spread out available ARPA funding
To this period.
in order to use that to mitigate rate impacts, but through this period, but also for 2025.
Yeah, but if you get the ARPA funding, that's basically going to step in as, to give you capital to make your capital improvement projects, to,
Well,
as opposed to pay debt service, you can't
well,
use.
it is supposed to be used for O&M expenses. It cannot be placed in a reserve.
Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, got
Oh,
it.
but that'll help your coverage.
That'll take,
But that'll help your coverage if you're able to apply it to O&M, right?
right.
Yes.
So the way it works is as we receive the grant, we can recognize it as revenue.
You can recognize the revenue.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
which
is.
helps your coverage. Yeah,
So it'll help our.
it'll flow through your coverage.
But this hasn't happened yet, right?
No.
This is the 14 million? That hasn't happened, okay. Thank you. Any further updates you want to tell us?
No further updates to the management report.
Okay, so going back to the agenda,
So we have
what's next?
we have-
Your resolution?
Yes, we have one issue for decision, Resolution 05 FY 2022. As discussed in the work session, this is seeking approval of change order number 6 for the Northern and Southern Guam Reservoir Design Services. Specifically, the project, or the change order is intended to accommodate enhancement to the Ugam Reservoir and our surface water treatment plant by providing for the design of a separate building to house some of the analysis and monitoring equipment that was not included in the original, envisioned in the original design. So the amount of the change order is $111,335. It includes this new design effort and continuation of the progress design meetings for the additional period that would be required to get this change order completed. We do anticipate that the design will be completed January 31st of 2022, and that our support services from the designer for during the construction period will extend until 2023. And this will be funded by bond funding for water system reservoir improvements.
Okay, commissioners? Commissioner Santos, move to accept, okay.
Resolution 5,
Second?
Second, is there any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed nay, motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That's it?
That's it for now.
Okay.
You're coming back?
Oh, you're coming back?
Are you coming back? He's not coming back.
No, we have, Miguel,
This is just,
You're not
you
coming
have an
back till next
executive
year,
session.
right?
no, I'm coming back tonight, I believe.
Yeah, for the executive session. We have an executive session.
We did?
Yes, it was in the agenda. It's just
Yeah,
an
yeah.
update on
Litigation.
litigation,
Got it.
just to give us an update.
Okay, well, we have some time.
It was in the agenda. Okay. This is the mediation, an update. Okay. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we have just two resolutions for tonight. Resolution number FY 2022-04. That's to authorize management to award the contract for the bulk supply of ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel oil. The ultra-low sulfur diesel oil, again, is to be utilized by the PD power plant, which is expected to begin continuous operation on ultra-low sulfur diesel as one of the plans that we have put together in July of next year. And so we did go out for a bid. There were 3 bidders. Hyundai Corporation, which is our current excuse me, supplier of RFO. We had Mobil Oil Guam and IP and Holding, who are our current suppliers of ultra-low sulfur diesel. And you have in your Exhibit A the results of that bid, whereas Hyundai Corporation came in with $6.90 for the premium, because the bid is really on the premium.
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes,
please hold. We're not live.
we're not on?
We're online on YouTube right now. But I don't know who's
So, can you get us online? I thought we were online.
Can you explain why we have to change? Is there a reason
Why do we have 2?
why do we have to switch out?
It's different presentations. So different agencies.
So YouTube is for the public, right? But the go-to meeting is for like senators and those that wish to observe more
They
directly.
want to log in or have the opportunity to speak, even though it hasn't always worked. But that's
So I guess it's arguably if they were in this room, right, and they raised their hand as the chairman, you could recognize them. It rarely happens, but it allows them to observe them.
Other than public comment?
Yeah.
Graham?
I mean, you could make the case that you just do the YouTube feed, right? Because you're right, any public meeting being observed, there's no right of the observers.
Streaming of the live meeting required that we have feedback or?
no. I mean, all it requires is that we live stream, and
Oh,
so
okay.
it's really the YouTube piece of it that gives the live streaming.
Right, right.
We
So-
just do this, I guess, as an accommodation we have in case someone wanted to.
Participate
Yeah.
without being here, kind of.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the only way you could theoretically participate without
But we
being in the
don't,
building.
allow people to participate.
I mean,
We allow
normally,
pub-
you're right, normally we don't, but from time to time, we've had someone
Public
say,
comment, whatever.
you know, depending on that person. But you're right, we
We'll,
could.
we'll try and pick
Okay,
we'll try and pick it as that.
It's a good question.
The question is, what is the written law?
YouTube,
All it requires is the live streaming.
YouTube, that's it.
YouTube. Okay,
Whatever format we.
Whatever format.
And so actually, we were doing that prior to when the law was passed.
Yeah,
actually.
right,
So-
yeah.
okay.
But this one is to give them the presentation to see, or is this just for internal things?
It's just, I guess it's really been an accommodation to a small group of folks that we wanted to accommodate. I think Mr. Harecki sometimes will watch, right? The Senator Rajel will sometimes watch.
Yeah.
It's just a way to accommodate them, but you're right, we could change it. I mean, it's a good call.
Transparency, we're back on this.
Yep, yeah.
Okay, are we back on? Everything's up? Okay, getting back to our meeting. John?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the benefit of everyone, I'll go ahead and quickly begin. Resolution number FY 2022-04, and again,
Oh, is there a motion to, okay, approve?
Second.
Second? Okay.
this is to authorize management to award the contract for the bulk supply of ultra-low sulfur diesel. And again, this diesel is for the utilization at the PD Power plant, because it is being converted to ultra-low sulfur diesel as part of the consent decree. And also, again, part of the overall plan to clean up that whole area under down at PD. In addition to that, they also provide 2 TENJO. There was a bid issued. 3 bidders did come in. There was Hyundai Corporation, which provides our RFO today, and Mobil Oil and IP&E Holding, which provides ultra-low sulfur diesel to the various standby generators on the island. And what you have before you is Exhibit A, the results of the bid. And the Hyundai Corporation came in at there's two portions. One is the reference price, which is actually set for everyone, and that moves with the market. And, it's
Dictated
only
by
with
the
the body oil. And secondly, the premium fee is what everything else, shipping,
That's what people are bidding
deliveries,
on.
mixing, and everything, right? So the Hyundai Corporation came in with $6.90 for the premium fee. IP&E came in at $7.98 for the premium, and the lowest bidder is Mobil Oil at $4.837 per barrel of oil. So again, tonight I'm asking the CCU to approve the contract. The first year contract, it will be about $4.837 million for the premium fee, $7.255 for the second year, totaling about $12 million for the two-year period. And again, that's only for the premium. The expected cost of this contract for Mobil Oil Guam for the 2 years, actually, 2 years is about $190,292,000 estimated cost
Per year or for 2 years?
for the 2-year period.
For the 2 years, okay.
So again, you have approved previously the tank that
Okay.
we're going to store
No
this in. Now the fuel is here, so delivery will begin once approved, of course, subject to the PUC's approval.
Sure.
Then we'll begin that delivery early next year.
Okay,
Be
there's
ready.
already a motion on the floor to approve this resolution. It's been seconded. Commissioners, any further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay, motion carries. John, do you have one more?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 2022-05. This is again to authorize management of to petition the Public Utilities Commission to maintain the levelized energy adjustment clause at the current rate of about 17.171458. As we could see in the recent months, fuel oil prices has been rising and rising. As we all know, in the last LEAC period, the PUC authorized for a 3-step increase of the LEAC because of the huge under-recovery that we were under. In addition to that, the governor did provide $15 million in order for this step-in period to occur and again make the under-recovery manageable. So again, by December 15, we have to file with the PUC for the next LEAC period, which is February 1st, 2022 to July 31st, 2022. Again, as I said earlier, the prices have been were rising substantially over the past several months. As we can see, we have originally projected around oil in the 70s, and now oil is in the 90s, about $20 more per barrel. In the last week, it's been very
Came down a little bit.
very pleasant to see that the oil prices have dropped some. From what I can see, from UPI has dropped by $10 a barrel past. So hopefully over the next period, over the next several months, because the PUC will decide on this typically in January, you can see a lowering or stabilization of the oil prices. So after we reviewed all our costs and this all the information that we did showing you the work session. The one other factor that has come in here is that the solar 60 megawatt solar power plant is anticipated to be online around April of
Next year.
So that means it'll be available for the 4 months of the year. We estimate that the savings is at least $1.1 million per month from that solar plant
In fuel costs?
in fuel costs. So therefore, although we didn't hit entirely the objective of under recovery for this coming period, again, mostly because of the recent increases in fuel oil prices, you see, after, with that being in the equation, the other recovery did decrease. So again, it's that, we kind of, it stops the continuous rise. No? So that being the case, and again, in hopes that by January, the pricing does decrease and stabilize where it was before, which is roughly $60 to $70 a barrel for RFO and about $89 to $90 a barrel for diesel. Then we will recover substantial amount of that. So again, our recommendation to yourselves is to hold the lid where it is and let's take a look at it. The PUC will take a look at this in January. And again, as they always, they reset what is necessary at that point. But again, that's our recommendation, Mr. Chair, for the lid.
Okay. To be clear, the 17.14 cents rate is going to start in December 1st.
December 1st.
And you're recommending to that also be the rate from February 1st to January, July 31st of next year. Okay.
Barring any, of course, if there's huge savings come in, then
We can always go back to the PUC. That's a happy
What
occasion.
we're working on is that at least we're banking that we can afford to levelize it. to that
It
period.
won't, you won't go
Because,
too deep in the hole.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
we have gone, up to
Sure,
$30
sure.
plus million in under
Okay.
recovery, but
Is there
I think
a-
we're reversing, that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor? Somebody want to make a motion?
Did we already do it?
Did we make?
Motion to accept.
No, motion to approve this. Is there a second?
A second.
Second? Any further discussion, commissioners? We discussed this at the working session.
So John,
Commissioner
just
Sanchez.
as I understand you and the chairman, we're basically proposing to hold the LEAC price for the next 8 months, from December 1 until next July 31st, right? Unless some unusual
Occurrence.
disruption in the oil market occurs. But as we know, oil's very expensive now. But the proposal, subject to final PUC approval and updated information that the PUC would have between now and January 31st, your recommendation is we're going to hold this price for another 8 months, effective December 1, it moves to this level, and we would keep it even after February 1. That's your recommendation to us,
Correct.
and then if we approve, we send that to the PUC, and then they'll get a look at it. And you still estimate there may be an under recovery of about $17 million, right? So we could have proposed to recover that 17 million, but for now, to help our ratepayers, we're saying we'll manage that cash flow, right? We can still meet our obligations, still have a reliable system, and carry a little bit of this under recovery until next July 31st, right, of next year. So
That's correct. The under recovery was actually, with all the renewables and all of that, would have been around $19-20 million, but 17, and again, that's what I meant about is at least reversing, in cost. No?
Okay, Commissioner Chalco.
And JB, you're factoring in the cost savings associated with the renewables coming online based on an April start date.
That's correct.
But there is potential that it could come online even earlier than that.
Well, to come on in April, that means they're going to start commissioning work around March, late February, March. So they'll be producing some energy, but on full commissioning, it's like target is April. And definitely no later than May is their contract actually.
they pay a penalty if they're
And
late, right?
once there's delay, then they do pay a penalty, which is the difference between the price, contract price, and the LEAC price.
Which is basically that 1.2 million that they allow us to save, in effect, will become the shortfall if they're late.
That's
right?
correct.
And
But-
then they would pay us for that.
Okay.
But prior to the stop work order, we were actually looking at commissioning starting in December, right? So is that
That's
still out,
correct.
is that out of the question?
I'm sorry.
Is that out of the question as of now?
Yeah, it's all of the question. Again, we did request to not have the stop order because of this, again, just this point, but be it as it may, it happened. Of course, there's a lot of issues occur when you stop a project. Secondly, financing, financing during construction. Those were issues that they had encountered. So now they're trying to get additional financing for the construction period. So that's why I'm saying even if it was delayed 1 month or so, we'll still be fine.
Okay.
No further questions.
No further questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair, my GM report is quite straightforward. I think more importantly, I'd like to tonight present to yourselves the customer engagement and strategy program, presenting research findings and some implementation plans.
Before you do, John?
Yeah.
Quick, just to update us, you wrote some letters to the legislature, you wrote some letters to Senator Rangel about conducting a hearing on the 2 bills that we're interested in that have impact our plans for Cabris and the new generator. I read in the media that Senator Rangel said he is working to schedule a hearing. And have you heard anything, any response more formal from Senator Rangel? Do we know if a hearing is being scheduled, and do we know when that hearing would be scheduled?
No, I have not heard of any date yet of the hearing, although we did urge him in my letter to the senator. I urged them if they can, do it as soon as possible, again, in the best interest of the ratepayers, no? And again, one of that significant part, of course, the 41 megawatt is significant also, but the refinancing, we can get moving on that. Everyone else has refinanced. It's really a straightforward scenario. Some of the things that we continue to do today is, again, we did meet with Zoom meeting with the PD Municipal Council, which is, again, directly affected by this bill. And my understanding from the mayor is that the council approved, support for the program. We're scheduling some meetings with senators to, ahead of time, trying and address any questions they may have. We're setting one with the next week with the Port Authority manager, of course, because they have a stake being in that area and the employees for all the years. And again, of course, the Superintendent Fernandez and the PD Middle School principal, and even anyone else there, so that again we can explain directly the impact and the benefits that are going to come as a result of doing this. So we continue to work towards that. I hope Senator Rangel schedules one shortly, because as you had mentioned and everyone has seen, really, that it is a significant benefit to our ratepayers, and it's all part of the overall plan that was approved by the CCU, the PUC, and everyone. It's been vetted. This whole thing has been vetted, if you recall. I mean, we've been trying to get this power plan done, and even when it was vetted in 2019, the amendment was vetted in early 2020. So it's nothing. This is nothing new in this whole process.
US EPA wants the Cabris units shut down.
Yes, it's part of our agreement, and yes, it may have said that we agreed to that, but of course there was no real alternative. The other alternatives would have cost the people of Guam, in addition to potential penalties, millions of dollars in additional fuel costs, because now you're trying to convert the Cabris unit. This is 47 years to burn diesel fuel, like we're doing now in PD. It's 2 different type of technology, and it's just, so it's a horrendous, it's a financial meltdown for us to try and go down that road. That's why everyone agreed that the power plant is the best solution, and the projections is showing that we're on track to accomplish it, and that there will be savings for the ratepayers in as short as within the next 3 years.
Keep us informed, because it's both those bills help lower the power bill help us reduce the emissions. I mean, the village of PD in particular has endured being the center of generation for 50 years now. And what's the total megawatts we have in Cabras when we had all four? What's the total megawatts now that we have there?
We have 132 plus 88, that's 210 plus 40, about 260
260 megs.
are
And,
down right there.
but our new plan, when you build a new generator up in Ukadu and you relocate the 40 megawatts that is part of that lowest cost package
Yep.
down to Cabras, we're going to go from 250 plus megawatts of base load power to 40 megawatts of standby backup power, reducing both the significantly reducing the emissions in the Cabras area 99%. And in terms of tsunami risk, we have 40, 50, 60% of our power at risk if there was a tsunami today. in
Right
Cabras.
now, if we have a tsunami, 40% of the island will be without power on a continuous basis until we have repaired the plants.
Right.
That is the major reason why. So when we're talking about the 41 megawatt, I like to say is the tip of the tail of the dog, if as an analogy, no?
What percentage of the island
The,
would
the
we
under
lose?
98 being located up in Ukudu, we can have continuous power for the whole island. No? Even at the peak demand of 260 megawatt, we will have continuous power in the high elevation areas of the island to serve the island despite the tsunami damage of the entire PD area.
So
Including, we will have 30 days of oil supply on the Okudu power plant, and this is designed to have accomplished that. So again, it's really, that 41 doesn't change the whole, plan to accomplish the benefits that we mentioned, which is one of them, tsunami.
And as part of the plan, we always said we would provide the land.
Yep.
So we provided Ukudu. But you have determined, once you saw the best package, the winning package, you further determined there was more savings for ratepayers and improvements to reliability by taking one component of the winning bid and just relocating it from one site that we selected, Ukudu, to another site that we control, Cabras. And we'd be reducing the amount of total capacity in Cabras from over 260 megs of base load 24/7 to 40 megs of backup system, right? And also reducing our tsunami exposure by significantly, right? Because if you had a tsunami and you only lost 40 megs, you could still keep the lights on in Guam.
Yeah,
If you have a tsunami now, you're going to lose how much power?
260 megawatts.
Like
But
40, 60%
there
of the
will
power.
still be about 80, 90 plus 80, 170 still down there. I mean, the PD, but
Eventually,
with what we have in the other areas, we have more than adequate to supply the area. The other thing is, again, the 41 megawatt down there allows the opportunity to retire older and costlier machines. So really, it didn't come in as a cost, it's coming in as a
Additional
benefit for additional reliability and additional savings for the ratepayers. Because again, all our machines are at least 20-some years old. Most of the standby generators are 30 years old. So again, so that's the reason. So it's we continue to work towards that, and I hopefully we have a public hearing soon. So again, the public needs to hear all of this, because I think it's important that they understand that we're finally coming to the end of the. We're finally coming. I mean, the lights at the end of the tunnel here, and that's my frustration, is that we're getting to the end of the tunnel, and we're putting in more. We're turning off lights, and it's not, just doesn't match.
Commissioner Chaco.
Thank you. And JB, also you had mentioned that one of the changes as well is these 41 megs are also dispatchable by GPA, right? Whereas in the current Ukudu plan, it's really the independent power producer that determines whether it's dispatchable or not. By relocating these, GPA gets to determine whether they need to bring those online to support the grid, correct?
Yeah. Maybe a way to an analogy for this is that the standby generator that was at Okudo, this were up at Okudo, is like a standby generator at your house. If the power system were to cut off, the generator will come on and serve your house and provide energy pushing out to the community. But again, that's always there. The generators at Okudu, it would be like the power plant next to you that we can turn on to serve everybody and as quickly as possible, because it's going to be remotely start. It can be push of the button from here, start coming out with all the capacity that we need. So those are benefits that we don't have today. And we didn't have in that contract. So it was an improvement. And of course, the additional cost we're paying is for labor, because they didn't need additional people with a standby generator at a house. But if you're going to run a power plant, you do need to operate and maintain it. So that's the additional cost. But then that would allow us to retire older and costlier with a net savings and an improved reliability of the system.
And the net savings was a couple million a year, if I recall from your presentation.
It could be, and could be even more depending on what we retire, no? Case in point, 88 megawatts of PD8 and 9 are down there. I'm not saying retire that right now because we've invested in it and we'll need to bring it, But in the future, it gives you an opportunity to look at it and say, do I want to spend 10 to 15 million on 88 megawatts, or is the 41 megawatts at 2 million to 4 million a year sufficient? So again, those decisions will come as we move forward, because again, things change, right? But basically, that's part, it provides us that opportunity to reduce those costs, and no matter which way it happens, that opportunity is already there. It is part of our plan to do that. No?
Okay, John, quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, we went out and asked our customers, what do they really want from us? And I think this is kind of timely in a way, because it's going to tell us what our customers want from us. And I think you won't be surprised that one of the top things that they want from us is lower power rates. No? So again, I didn't, but I didn't do it for the reasons of the bill, but it's something that our team, and I asked Tricia to present it and have our team that did the study come by. So I think it's like about a little less, about 10 minutes or so, but I think it's worthwhile that we listen to what they,
Good evening. The voice of our customer is really important, especially now that we are transitioning our energy needs. And so who we have here is our vendor and contractor, Big Fish Creative. And so I'm going to let Genevieve Uka introduce her team. They have a very short and brief explanation of our research findings. Okay. So Jen will discuss the research efforts and what the insights of those efforts mean and what we're doing.
Okay.
So Jen. Oh, we can't hear Jen. Jen, 1 minute. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Okay, Jen, you want to try? Oh, 1 minute.
Okay.
We'll try and make this give us a little bit of time, make this as seamless as possible. But we'll try and get one system to try and work.
Non-YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, not on YouTube. So while Rick is trying to get them on, what we did is we engaged. First thing we did with this, with our customer engagement and strategy, is we went out and we did several customer surveys. And the first survey, if you recall, that was about, we started it over a year ago, and that was a quantitative survey. Hopefully when they come on, David can explain a little bit more about the quantitative survey. We had a series of questions, and we really wanted to understand the demographics of our customers, and that's something that the chairman had asked us to really look into. We wanted to also understand what our customers knew of GPA. So as the five of you know, GPA has really been sprinting along to come up with customer solutions regarding their energy accounts, being able to not only control their accounts and manage their accounts, but how to reduce their power consumption, thus reducing their power bills. So we had a quantitative survey done, and it was very telling. With that quantitative survey, we did provide the CCU with the results of that. Mm-hmm. And following that, we had a qualitative survey. So that some of you had participated and listened in to some of those surveys. And those were small groups, one-on-one, where we asked questions and we allowed customers to discuss what their thoughts and what their suggestions were. And between that time, GPA had engaged in several efforts to improve the perception of the utility within our customers' minds. And some of those projects, I think many of you have seen as well. Okay, we know they're here. I'm sorry, Jen and Shannon, I'm sure you guys could have done a much better job than I am.
But we could also go ahead and choose some of the key insights from the baseline survey in the fall of 2020.
Okay, I wonder if they could dial in.
And again, this is on page...
Joyce, you want to proceed? So guys, I'm going to go ahead and try to take over.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know the number. Hey Jen, if you can dial in.
The speaker and that, and we can put it in here. There you go.
Okay guys, you're back on the TV. Jen, can you go ahead and speak? We'll let you know when we can hear you. There you go. We can hear you now. Jen, can you try to speak?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
David, we can hear you.
You can hear us.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay.
So we're good?
Okay. Okay.
Great.
I'm sorry. Jen, can you go ahead and introduce your team?
Yes, thank you so much. How's the day, everyone? I am Jennifer Roca, Managing Director of Big Fish. And joining me today is Shannon Hatta, our account manager, and David Littender, President of Research at Anthology. Tracy did an amazing job summarizing research and the data that Anthology was able to perform for us. In the past year, we've been able to work closely with QC and Jameson and had great discussions with Ms. Lee under the customer engagement program. And one of our primary goals under the program, and a real critical first step to its success, is to get a better understanding of the customer perspective so that we can build upon or create new programs that would enhance the customer experience and increase engagement. So David will deliver his findings, and Shannon and I will then address how we've been able to adapt the data to current and upcoming planned programs. So that's handed off to David to discuss the research efforts. Are we able to show the presentation or share a screen with us? Are you all seeing the presentation on the TV? If we could go through our own presentation and just perhaps just request to change the slides just a bit.
I will dive in. If you folks are not able to see the presentation, just let us know.
David,
David, thank you, Jen, for the introduction. Thank you, Tracy, James, and the entire GPA team for the opportunity to be here today to present some top-line findings of the research that was conducted over the last year. As Tracy mentioned, there were really three components to the research that was conducted beginning about this time last year with that baseline survey. We will go over a few of the key findings of that, but it's important to note that this was a mixed mode study that was conducted among ratepayers, both residential ratepayers and commercial ratepayers, in October and November of 2020. Over 1,035 surveys were collected, which is a very significant sample size for a survey of this nature. So we have great confidence in the reliability of the data that's collected as part of that effort. And again, I'll go through a few of those key findings in a moment. We also did, in March of this year, a survey of past due customers. There were about 1,100 residential and commercial ratepayers who were past due in their bills to GPA. And owing to the decision to lift the moratorium on disconnections, I believe in the summertime, the decision was made, I think, wisely to conduct a survey of those customers who need to be subject to potential disconnection, to understand their awareness and usage of payment options, to understand their willingness to enroll in a payment plan, including auto enrollment in a payment plan, to understand the impact of COVID, both financially and otherwise, on their ability to pay their bills, as well as their understanding, awareness, and willingness to participate in the emergency rental assistance program. So that was a very important effort that was done earlier this year, again, in the form of a survey of customers that were past due. And most recently, as Tracy mentioned, we conducted qualitative research in the form of focus groups with residential ratepayers, as well as one-on-one executive interviews with commercial ratepayers, those businesses on island who directly are responsible for paying their electricity bill. And that's where I'm going to spend some of the focus today. But it is really important to note that this research is not only gathering data and opinions and perspectives from ratepayers, but it is also part of the engagement program and reaching out to them and soliciting their input. And that is so much, as Jen and Shannon are going to talk about, engagement is not a one-way street. And so it's very important, we believe, to be able to listen to ratepayers and understand their challenges, understand the perceptions that they have, so that we can better tailor programs to meet their needs. So if you don't mind going to the next slide, it should be slide 3. This is a slide that starts with key insights from the baseline survey that was conducted last fall. There's a great deal to cover. I'm going to cover off on a few top-line things, and I believe the Commission did see this report likely late last year. But it's important to note, for the purposes of messaging and positioning GPA among customers, that the perceptions of GPA in this baseline study were largely cold and transactional. Words like expensive, utility, electricity, power, outages were all mentioned. And those were unaided mentions that were just provided top of mind for folks in describing the utility. On the brighter side, nearly 6 in 10 customers, 58%, did say that they saw GPA as improving and had seen market improvement over time in the utility in the way that it manages its operations. Customer satisfaction levels from this baseline survey showed that about 1 in 4 customers, so 28% overall, gave a 9 or a 10, which is a top box score on a 10-point scale. 1 is very poor, 10 is excellent in terms of satisfaction. So about 1 in 4 customers gave a top box score of 9 or 10 in terms of satisfaction, which is good, but not great. We certainly would like to see that number closer to 50% and then increasing over time to be the vast majority of customers. And most directly related to the rationale for conducting the recent qualitative research were some findings that we had in the baseline survey that showed among those customers, those 72% of customers who did not give a top box score of 9 or 10 in satisfaction with GPA, we asked them what could be done to improve their satisfaction. And you can see on the screen the top 5 items, the first of which was reducing rates. It's all about cost for many folks, and a lot of the other tangential items are related to lowering bills. Addressing power outages was also something that was mentioned by about a quarter of the ratepayers who gave a less than stellar score. Overall, improving customer service and having different ways of reaching the utility and interacting with paying bills also mentioned as a need. Improving infrastructure overall, which includes power lines and other infrastructure, mentioned by 13%, and generally just improving communication overall among the top 5 things that were mentioned as ways to improve satisfaction. So as I said, we did most recently some qualitative research in the form of focus groups where there's a group dynamic that can develop among residential ratepayers, as well as 5 one-on-one interviews with business owners on island to understand their perspectives. And this is really a great opportunity to get all of the ideas on the table, to understand the thinking and the rationale, further explore some of the findings that we saw in the baseline survey, so that we have a really good understanding of how to apply those findings into an engagement program. We saw overwhelming support for the frontline employees, and they use that term, ratepayers use that term frontline, whether it's the customer lobby representatives or the folks in the call center, whether it's the linemen or other folks who are out in the field to service customers. There is a great deal of trust and respect for those folks across the board, and I was really encouraged to see that level of enthusiasm for those employees. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and just listening to the conversation just a few minutes ago about the LEAC, it's not surprising that the average ratepayer doesn't think about electricity every single day. They're not involved in the day-to-day operations and minutia of the utility, and so they don't necessarily understand a lot of what's going on. But they really assume that the idea of renewable energy, especially solar energy, means free power. And so as they talk about the want, the desire to lower rates, they think that solar is the answer to everything. Just by having more solar farms, more residential solar, that rates will go down precipitously, which of course we know is not true. There's also a broad misunderstanding of the energy cost calculation. There's just not a lot of time spent for ratepayers in understanding and dissecting their bills, and so they don't really understand why their rates are what they are. They just know that they're too high. Whatever their monthly bill is, it's too high. There's very low awareness, and we had a great deal of discussions in these focus groups and one-on-one interviews about a plan. Does GPA have a plan? Clearly, there's low awareness of the integrated resource plan that's in place and being executed. That is very much a part of the discussion that was happening just a few moments ago. There's a huge desire for GPA to just have a plan. And many participants were reassured once we told them that there is actually a plan in place, and that an objective of that plan is actually to lower rates for customers over time. That really assured ratepayers, both residential and commercial, that the utility is looking out for their best interests. So that, I think, is a really critical point going forward, to make sure that we communicate again and again and again. Businesses were concerned about the cost of electricity, but they're also concerned about the quality of electricity. We heard that term used again and again to describe the fluctuations of power, businesses blaming that fluctuation on burning out some of their equipment or having it not have as long a useful life as they would expect otherwise. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of communications to businesses and any other programs that might be available to help them. There was an incredibly positive reaction to the messaging points that we shared about the various things that GPA is doing, not the least of which is having a plan, but the renewable energy plans that the utility has, the plans for reducing the dirty fuel that the utility uses, all received very positively. But it was clear just in the messaging discussions we had and in the language that these ratepayers are using, that technical terminology, technical jargon is not understood, and in fact it goes to diminish trust because people don't understand what's being talked about. They need to have simple language. They need to have things explained to them very simply in words that they know and understand. If we can go to the next slide. From my point of view as a researcher, I think some of the possible applications of these research findings, I left out with jargon. I think that's the number one thing, to make sure that we are speaking in simple language that everyone can understand, making sure that the ratepayers, the community, and the environment are all emphasized as benefits. Those are the things that really matter to people. Emphasizing that GPA has a plan. Lowering customer rates is a specific objective of that plan. It will be critically important. Focusing on messaging that integrating renewable energy will reduce reliance on fossil fuels over time, but it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. That the benefits to the environment are nice, but not actually the key drivers of perception. Many of the conversations we had about the environment were, yeah, that would be nice if we were more green or if it was more sustainable, but at the end of the day, especially in light of COVID and the financial considerations of COVID, people just want to see all the bills and they want to know that their interests are first and foremost for the utility, for the commission, and for everybody who makes decisions about the electricity on island. GPA employees are seen as earnest and trustworthy, and I think they can be excellent ambassadors to tell the story about GPA and help people understand what the utility is doing. Overall, keeping the messages simple and repeating messages often is going to be the key. As I said at the top, ratepayers are just not thinking about this on a daily basis, and so they have to be continuously reminded through multiple different channels, not just in statements in their bills, not just in earned media, but across the board through many different channels to make sure that they're reminded of all the things that GPA is doing to look out for their best interests. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen to talk about application of this research, but I will open it up for questions, I guess, first. We'd like to leave those to the end.
Yes, we have a question. Commissioner Mchako.
Yeah, just going back to one of the key insights from the baseline survey, you had pointed out that 28% were top box scores, but what was the average score amongst the respondents?
The average score, the mean score, which is what we do when we calculate all of the responses given from all 1,035 respondents, the mean score overall was 7.5, which tells us that as we look at top box, which is 9 to 10, middle box, which is 5 to 8, and low box, which is 1 to 4. Most of the other responses that were not in the top box were actually in that middle box. So we had 65% of respondents overall give a score between 5 and 8, and that mean score tells us that many of those were closer to 7 or 8. So that is encouraging to me that there's great opportunity in moving those folks along. As we look at satisfaction, we like to think of it as a continuum, and you don't move people from a 5 to a 10 overnight. You have to move them from a 5 to a 6, 6 to a 7, a 7 to an 8, an 8 to a 9. So it is encouraging to me to see the mean score of 7.5. That overall satisfaction is not bad. I think there's just a little bit of a nudge and a little bit that can be done to move a higher proportion of ratepayers into that top box.
Thank you. One more question.
Santos.
Demographics of the 1,000, can you just give that to us in another, just want to see where, do you have also village location?
Yes. Yes. David, I'll handle that one with the demographics.
We do have that. I can give you any demographics you'd like to see. The survey has a great deal of demographics from location to employment status, years on Guam, whether they're born and raised or transplanted, age, ethnicity, household income level, gender.
Yeah, David, let's go ahead and get that, and we'll give it to the commissioners after this meeting. Thanks.
So next slide, please, and that would be on our screen, slide 6. So as a direct response to the qualitative study performed in November 2020, we launched a campaign highlighting the people behind Gpwa. The Power to Serve campaign featured employees from laymen to engineers to CSRs, with a goal to change the perception of GPA from what David describes as cold and impersonal to relatable. So we wanted to build trust and confidence with our customers. We saw really great engagement on our social media channels, and those posts were really one of the highest performing that we've seen. And then so our phase 2 approach for FY22, in light of the qualitative study was done recently. As David mentioned, many customers don't know that there's a plan in place to deliver 100% renewables by 2045. And so this coming year, we will more directly focus on engaging our customers to help them understand how all the components of the plan will ultimately help lower power bills and improve air quality and add more solar to the grid. So Shannon will next slide, please. We'll discuss the ways in which we engage our customers over here.
So one of the key points that the research found in the ways to improve customer satisfaction was improving communication. To reach customers, we wanted to grow all the existing platforms, which are the print newsletters, Gpwa.com, Facebook, the lobby displays, and any earned and paid media. But the research also showed that people want to be reached in so many different ways, and we want to be sure that we're hitting every type of customer. So we want to hit every kind of channel that there is available to us. We launched Power Alerts, a service where we can receive and send outage notices in October 2020, and to date have over 52,000 subscribers. In February 2021, we launched a monthly e-newsletter that currently has over 27,000 subscribers, and we also relaunched the Gpwa Instagram, which has over 800 followers. Most recently, in October of this year, we launched the YouTube channel, and our most recent video had over, here it says 96,000, but that was last week when we made this presentation. Now I think it's over 98,000 views. And so we're really focusing on growing these platforms to reach those different customers. We're currently working on refreshing the GuamPowerAuthority.com website for this fiscal year. And that will serve as the information hub for all of these channels. So at the bottom of this slide, you'll see different content buckets that come from the research that David has done, and also our own analytics from all these new digital platforms. These are all the categories that people most want to hear about from Gpwa. So things about clean energy, conservation, service-oriented information, community outreach information, and all the ways. And this is what we're centering all our content around. In a nutshell, our strategy is to grow all of these platforms and provide the information that customers most want to see. There's a video at the top of this slide that I think we're going to try and play after our presentation if we have time. But the video is the first in our educational animated video series. We found that many people surveyed weren't clear on how their bills are calculated, or what the LEAC is, as David mentioned. So we developed this video explaining the LEAC, and hopefully it helps simplify it for the average wayfarer. If we're not able to play it though, we'll also share the link. We can go to the next slide, which is our omni-channel approach. So because we have so many different channels to communicate to ratepayers with, it's important that we're always delivering the same message. We want to reach customers where they are and deliver simple, clear, and consistent messages. So rather than a multi-channel approach where you're seeing different messages from at the customer lobby compared to your printed statement compared to your digital platform, we have the omni-channel approach, where the customer is surrounded by the same message and same tone of voice, no matter where they find it.
And with our omni-channel approach as well, it's also important to understand that customers consume content differently. And so this diagram here references how media consumption has changed in the age of COVID-19. across all demographics, from millennials to boomers. This study, which was conducted in 2020, shows a real growing demand for online video content across all age groups. And so we really used this information strategically in our plan, delivering online video content easily digestible, in really complicated messages, and as David mentioned, making sure that the average ratepayer understands and no utility speak, no technical jargon, and that's still part of our bigger plan as well for FY22. So, I'm sorry, is there a question? Oh. So really part of our omni-channel approach is tracking studies like these and tracking trends like these, and strategizing and retooling our engagement channels throughout the year, while delivering real consistent message, same tone, the same tone of voice, the same look and feel, all along the customer journey. So that really concludes our presentation today. Thanks so much for having us. We're happy to take any questions you all might have with regard to the customer engagement program strategy.
Yes, we have one question. Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you go back to the slide that says key messaging for customer engagement? Okay, so you summarized in FY21 that I guess our theme is power to serve, and you 3 bullets on what we're trying to do. FY22, bringing energy solutions to you. Obviously, I like that title since I created it 20 years ago. But that one's about that we have a plan, right? And then if you go to the next slide, right? These are based on your research. You know, we have existing platforms. We send out existing newsletters, pay Gpwa, and we're trying to do more with those platforms. But despite these platforms, no one knows we have a plan. And if you look at the bottom of this slide, where does it say anything about lowering the cost of power, which is the single most important aspect of any of our ratepayers? I see clean energy, conservation, service-oriented, community outreach, ways to pay. I don't see one box talking about how You know, I understand that we have a plan. More important to me than the fact that we have a plan is we have a plan to lower your power bill. That's what's important to ratepayers. Not just that we have a plan. You know, we have a plan to fly to the moon. We have a plan to connect to Saipan. We have a plan to lower their power bills. If we were to rate what was most important to ratepayers, flying to the moon or going to Saipan wouldn't rank up there. Lowering the power bill will go up there. And one of the challenges I see of all of us is, despite these many platforms, and despite the recognition that we have platforms, we want to do more with platforms, and we want to create an omni-channel, right? I was just struck by that in identifying the most important thing to ratepayers, none of these 2 pages have a box that says, we're going to lower your power bill, which is what all the hard work of Gpwa and its professionals, that's what they're working on. Most important thing they're working on, 2 things, is to lower their power bill while keeping power reliable to ratepayers. And I just was struck by the lack of emphasis even in the marketing committee's box of interests. There was more emphasis on, people were comforted that we have a plan, right? Which is fine. But we also know they're most comforted by saying, whether you have a plan or not, what are you doing to lower my power bill?
Yeah,
and we have a plan to lower their power bill.
Yeah, and I think
Commissioner,
they
in
will
all of
address
those
that.
boxes, we did miss putting that in the slide, but as we discussed it, every single box that is the common theme is everything that we're doing is to lower their power bill, not only from lowering the amount of fuel that we use and the price that we pay for it, but also lowering their use, their consumption of power, and becoming more efficient.
Okay, so if you go back to the slide before, what's missing in these thematic campaigns for these fiscal years?
Yeah, you are right. The public education campaign centered around the master plan is all about, the whole point is to lower power bills, and provide reliable, clean energy to our ratepayers.
And we've even heard that as much as we all like to say, and we're committed to clean energy, we know that the environment doesn't rank as high to our customers, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the survey, the most important thing to them is to lower their power bill. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, reliability, the quality of the power, that it's reliable, outages, that's the second piece, biggest takeaway. And the third piece was, okay, it's nice that we're cleaning up the environment. But if they had to pick, I'm guessing that if the ratepayers had to pick the top three, they would correctly pick lower the bill, have a reliable system, and do everything you can to protect the environment. And I was just struck by both this slide, the last two slides we looked at, not one of them referred to lowering the power bill. They referred to having a plan, but I think it was missing the punchline. We have a plan to lower the cost of your power. That's the most important thing to ratepayers, and that's the most important message I believe we have to communicate to our ratepayers.
Yeah, and I think when they working in FY22, the integrated resource plan is really about the savings and the reliability and all of that. So,
But John, we've had an IRP.
But Sai,
We've had an IRP
if
for
I
20
may
years.
just finish, please.
Well, they don't know about the plan. They don't know about
No,
the IRP.
they know about the IRP. In fact,
Survey. Our ratepayers.
no. They've been working on the going out now to market the different things, which is our integrated resource plan. Okay, which provides towards the savings and all of that. So in every component of that, the plan is to inject what our key points are is reliable power and lower cost. But again, point taken though. The team are listening, and we will make sure that we add that as a scenario. But in all fairness to the team, that is how they were planning to address it. And I guess they can also talk. But that's my understanding from the work that they have been doing.
I understand it, and I'm just reacting to their presentation, and I was struck by the fact that in 2 or 3 of the key pieces of their presentation, there wasn't one mention of
It was
lowering the power
well
bill.
noted, Commissioner, and we may have missed it on the slide, but trust me, our actions are all based on what the ratepayer wants. It's all about their voice. So I apologize that we missed it on the slide.
Providing feedback, that's cool.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that's definitely part of our overall messaging strategy as well, and hearing from you folks, and as we get more research under our belt as well, our strategies will of course change. This is an evergreen document, it changes all the time. We hope to get more feedback along the way and really tailor our messages so that it is really relatable and reflective of the current temperature of our customers. But ultimately, we do want to let our customers know that through the master plan, the ultimate benefit to them will be lower power. Because right now, they're looking for ways to conserve energy, and we, mentioned different ways to conserve energy, and Gpwa has done that. But really, it's more than that. I mean, there's a bigger picture, and the plan is the big picture. And so not many people know that there's a plan. It's a consistent plan. It's a plan that's sustainable. Conserving energy, with the net going up and down, really the overall goal or solution is the bigger plan, the bigger picture, and that's really one of our core strategies. But ultimately, yes, lowering power bills, reducing air quality, or reducing air emissions, and increasing air quality, and adding more solar to the grid. Those are the three points we'd like to address. But they need to know, where is this coming from, and what's the ultimate thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. If there are no further questions, the presentation is a good start, and I think our comments will be taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you have a video?
Is there a video?
We can play that video, that'd be great.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try, Jen. We may lose you, I think, but we'll try.
Okay. if,
Ever send a link and then we can.
Yeah, we'll share the link. I don't think we're able to.
okay.
I'm not sure it's gonna work on this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
you know what? You can provide the video to us. Provide the link to us in an email and we'll get to the video, okay?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one more item. John, are you done?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm
Thank
done.
you. We have a recommendation from our legal counsel to go into executive session to discuss a litigation matter. Can I have a motion to do
For
that?
which company, Mr. Chair?
GWA.
Okay.
This is
Mr. Chairman, I
GWA.
move we move into executive session to discuss GWA litigation.
Yes. Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. 2 minutes to just do the things.
Okay, Larry. Yeah, just mark it.
No, not.
Huh? Okay, Thanksgiving.
Okay, we're back in open session. This motion to adjourn?
Second.
Sumo, second? We're adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Huh? See you Monday.